Hey, what's up guys? It's me, ThePsychNPDavidC. So yesterday I had a patient swing at me, and no, it's not clickbait, it actually happened. Like his fist was literally like an inch away from my cheek. So in this video, I'm gonna go through the events that led up to that situation. I'll also explain things like safety techniques, de-escalation techniques, and just what psych patients can be really like sometimes. Let's talk about it. This happened in an acute inpatient psychiatric hospital, which means the patients are going to be a little crazy sometimes. So I was working on the unit that's supposed to be the most high functioning of the hospital, meaning most patients that are going to be there are going to be like super calm and cooperative and probably just depressed. But obviously that isn't what happened in this case. So yeah, I was sitting at the nursing station and then I received a call from another hospital's ER about this patient that they're going to transfer over to us. So I'm like on the phone with the other nurse from the other hospital getting a report, and they're like, oh, this is a 54-year-old male. He has a long history of schizophrenia and multiple inpatient psychiatric admissions. He's currently very paranoid, delusional, and hyper-religious. Apparently, he told one of the nurses there that Jesus had performed brain surgery on him. So I was just like, oh boy. And they said he's been non-compliant with his medications for like a couple weeks. And they also said he was very calm and cooperative, which is definitely gonna change in the later parts. So yeah, after getting a report from the nurse, he shows up in our lobby like a couple hours later, so we go out to get him. They put him on a 5150 72-hour hold for gravely disabled because apparently he's like unable to provide a plan of self-care. So for the sake of HIPAA, we'll just call this patient by the name of John. So I go out to the lobby and then I see this 54-year-old-ish patient on a stretcher, and he's like very disheveled. Like his hair was all messy. He's wearing a gown that has like stains on it. So I was like, yeah, that's probably him. But yeah, I confirm it first with the EMTs that, you know, that's actually the patient, John. And then after they confirm it, I'm like, oh, hello, John. My name is David. I'm a psychiatric nurse. I'm gonna take your blood pressure real quick and then we'll walk you back onto our unit, okay? And he kind of just like stares at me like this and didn't say anything, but he let me take his blood pressure. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then right before he comes off the stretcher, he's like, can you guys get me a wheelchair? Cause like, I don't think I can walk. And in my head, I'm just thinking like, the nurse from the other hospital gave me a report earlier and they said he was like walkie-talkie, can walk by himself. So, but anyway, I figured it'd be better to be safe than sorry. So I went back to get a wheelchair and then brought it back out for him. And then we help him onto the wheelchair. And then literally like 3 seconds after he gets on the wheelchair, he's like, actually, I think I can walk. And then he just stands up and starts walking. And I was just like, bruh, you made me go back and get a wheelchair for like nothing. You know, obviously I kept those thoughts in my head and didn't actually say them out loud. And then as we're walking in, I'm being nice to him, like, you know, hey, are you hungry right now? Do you want some food? Do you have any food allergies? And he's like, you know, speaking very minimally to me. And then when we get onto the unit, I'm like, okay, John, I'm gonna show you to your room and then we're gonna do a skin check in there, okay? So he was following me and then I stepped inside his room and then he just stopped outside of the doorway to his room. And then he was just like, this room is cursed, so I don't want to go in this room. Is there any other rooms we can go into? And I was like, no, unfortunately, this is the only male bed open right now. So yeah, this is your room. And he's like, well, I don't feel safe going there because I think it's cursed. And then he was also like, oh, like these socks I'm wearing, they're cursed too. So like, I need to take them off. And I was like, oh, okay. And then we just gave him a chair outside the room for the meantime and then took off his socks. And then we brought him over like a brand new pair of sealed socks in the plastic. And he's like, oh, no, those socks are cursed too. And I was just like, oh boy, here we go. So yeah, the first thing you need to do when you have a new patient at a psych hospital is use a skin check just to make sure they're not hiding any like weapons or drugs under their clothes or anything. But obviously he wasn't going to comply with that because he doesn't even want to go into his room. So eventually we had to call Code Gray. A bunch of staff members from the other units came by, and then we had to go hands-on, meaning like I took his left arm while another staff member like took his right arm. So yeah, he started resisting while we were walking him. So, you know, we had to apply like a good amount of force, like holding his arms back. You can actually see the scar he left on me right there. And then eventually we were able to walk him to his room, and then we put him down on the bed and held him down so he can like, you know, lift his gown and check his skin and all that. And then while this is happening, 2 other nurses came into the room and gave him emergency injections just to help him calm down a little bit. So yeah, most of the time after you give a patient an emergency injection, they'll go to sleep like 30 minutes to an hour later. but this guy was different. He stayed in his room for about an hour after the skin check and the injections, and then he ended up coming out of his room and like just doing the same things he did before he got the shot. You know, he came up to the front of the hallway next to the nursing station and he's like, you know what? I don't feel like I need to be here. This place is cursed with a bunch of demons. I'd rather be transferred to like a Christian hospital with pastors. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with his request, but at the moment, like, we can't let him go since he's on a 5150 hold. So we're trying to explain to him like, hey, like, I know you'd rather be somewhere else, but unfortunately in the situation that we're in, you kind of have to be in this hospital because of the legal hold that you're on. And then you can tell like any type of reasoning you try to do with him will not work. It's not going to go through his head because every time you say something, he'll come back with like, well, this place is cursed. And he literally said like, oh, I need an exorcist here to get the spirits out of this hospital. And then as he was saying these things, you can notice like he became like a little like fidgety or antsy. And then he's like, you know, eyeing the exit door behind us. So these are some of the kinds of behaviors you'll notice in a patient right before they start acting up. So once he started doing those things, I was like, okay, this guy's probably gonna try to run for the exit door. And sure enough, after a couple minutes, he just jolted for the exit door. So me and one of my coworkers had to do the same thing. Like I had his left arm and then my coworker had his right arm. But this time he was a lot more aggressive. So while we had his arms in our hands trying to escort him to the seclusion room, which is like on the other side of the hospital. So I'm holding his left arm like this, right? And then my coworker is like on this side with his right arm. The patient takes his right arm, which is like on this side. And then he literally tries to swing at me like this. And I just look over, I'm like, oh crap. And then I like move my head back. And then luckily on the other side, my coworker was able to like pull his arm away from me and back into the original position. So yeah, his fist was like literally like an inch or a centimeter next to my face right here. So after that happened, we just put him like face first against the wall just to try to like stabilize everything before we continue walking him. And I'm not gonna lie, that moment did piss me off because this guy literally tried to punch me in the face, and he would have if my coworker didn't hold his arm back. So I admit my temper did get a little bit of the best of me. So I was like saying some words in his ear because, you know, he's right here. So I'm like, you know, I'm not going to say what words I said, but you can, you know, imagine what I said to him. But eventually we just walked him to the seclusion room and just locked him in there because he's obviously not safe to be outside. So after an incident like this happens, there's always a debriefing meeting afterwards with all the staff members that are involved. Just going over like what happened, what the staff did, is there anything we could have done better, stuff like that. So yeah, my staff members and I did the right things we were supposed to do. When he was voicing his concerns about not wanting to be at this hospital, we calmly explained to him in a quiet voice like the situation that he's in and why we're unable to accommodate his preferences at the moment. We spent a long time just trying to explain to him calmly and rationally, but obviously he wasn't in the right state of mind to like understand or process anything. So after you try to reason with the patient like that, if they're still confrontational and like agitated, you have to give them two choices. It really doesn't matter what those two choices are, but you have to just give them two choices. So they either choose option A or option B. They don't have to think about anything else. You literally just ask them, do you want option A or do you want option B? So we were like, hey, John, you have two options here. Option A, you go back to your room and just lay down and chill. Option B, we can walk you over to the seclusion room and possibly put you in restraints if you still act aggressively. And that's when he jolted for the exit door and we had to grab him. And then they asked us like, is there anything you guys think you could have done better? And I was like, no. Okay, maybe the one thing I could have done better is not, you know, say those words in his ear after he tried to punch me. But other than that, I think we did everything pretty well. So yeah, these types of situations can happen in psych hospitals. It's pretty rare, but they do happen. A lot of how it goes really depends on your team. Like if you have a team member who doesn't use the de-escalation techniques and just ends up agitating the patient even more, that can make things go worse. But if you have a team member who's really calm and patient and explains things to the patient and, you know, gets them to de-escalate just verbally, that's a very valuable team member to have. And also the patient wasn't able to fully reach my face with his punch because I had my other coworker like holding his arm back. Afterwards, I was kind of giving him crap. I was like, hey man, you almost let that patient punch me in the face, bro. But yeah, all this was happening like right before shift change, so I don't know what ended up happening to the patient after we put him in seclusion room. Honestly, I don't think that patient John was like naturally aggressive. I really think it's just his schizophrenia being untreated that made him, you know, violent. I do truly believe that if John was like properly medicated, he wouldn't be acting this way. He'd be like a normal person like you or me. So yeah, I just wanted to share that experience about almost getting punched in the face by a psych patient. I hope you found this helpful or entertaining at least. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. If you have any other similar stories, you can comment down below. I am also on TikTok and Instagram if you want to follow me over there at ThePsychNPDavidC. I see adult patients living in California. If you're interested, there's a link down below. And with that, your mental health just leveled up. You're welcome.